Hello everybody, it's Mr. Slomkin. I wanted to talk to you about section 11.3, collecting data. This is video number 2 of 2. This is part 2 of the notes. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at a number of methods for collecting data. So last time we had taken a look at some sampling techniques, and now we're going to talk about the way that we're going to collect the data after we've chosen our sample. So here are our vocab terms. Once again, a lot of vocab and almost no calculation, which is good. We've saved these lessons for the end because they're very, very easy. You learn a couple words, you write them down, and you're good. So our four vocab words that we have are experimental, observational study, a survey, and a simulation. Some of these should sound familiar, and others will be a little bit new. Let's talk about an experiment. An experiment is just like you have in a science class. What is going to happen is that there's going to be some sort of treatment or action that is going to be introduced to a sample, and the results of those or changes are going to be recorded. So this is exactly like if you were in a lab and you did something funny to your lab mouse and then you wanted to see what happened to your mouse. An observational study is similar. You're still going to be recording what happens, what changes occur, but what's going to happen is that the members of the sample are going to be observed without any control of their actions or their environment. So that means that you're not going to do anything to them, you're just going to look at what they do to themselves. A survey. A survey means you're going to go out and you're going to ask some questions. One or more questions are asked to investigate a topic that is applied to a sample. And then lastly, a simulation. Simulations are becoming extremely popular and they're used all the time. And what's going to happen is that there's going to be some sort of model, which is usually a computer model, and it is used to reproduce the conditions of a situation in order to gather data. So this isn't real world information, but this is some sort of prediction of what real world information could look like. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Just like before, we're going to read off the example and then you're just going to have to identify which of these four choices we are looking at right here. First one. Members of StuCo ask every 8th student who enters the cafeteria whether they like the snacks in the vending machines. So last time we were very interested in this portion right here, and now we're not so interested in that. What we're more interested in this time is we're interested in this portion right here. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be asking, which means it is a survey. It would be a systematic survey, and it would be relatively unbiased. But it is, the fact that we're focusing on today is that it is a survey. Number 2, park rangers measure and record the heights of trees in a park. So now they certainly didn't ask the trees any questions. And it doesn't sound like they've done anything to make the trees grow or stunt the trees' growth. So this is just observational. This is an observational study right here, and they're just collecting data about what they see in the forest. Number 3. TikTok uses exponential growth models to predict the spread of viral videos. So we've got this company right here who's gaining a lot of traction, and what they're going to do is they're just going to try to track what's going to happen in the future. They are using a simulation right here. Exponential growth is something that is understood very well, and a computer can model exactly how something is going to grow and change very quickly and easily, and then TikTok can adjust to make sure that they are taking care of that accordingly. Number 4. Jim gives Dwight an Altoid each time he restarts his computer for a month, and then he observes what Dwight does the following month. Jim is performing an experiment. He is offering a treatment or an action to Dwight, and then he's going to see how that affects Dwight and record the data. If you know what reference this is, great for you. You're probably watching too much Netflix like we all are. Okay, so next. Let's go back to bias again. So now let's talk about surveys. We had talked about surveys and whether they were biased or not based off of their sample. Now what I want to talk about is whether the survey is going to be biased based off of the type of question that they have. Just like last time, a bias is bad. And so a biased sample is bad and a biased question is bad. A biased question is going to be a flawed question. It's a bad one. That leads people to change their minds or adjust their opinions, and that's not something that you want. When you're surveying people, you want them to give you their true and honest opinion. You don't want them to be guarded or anything like that. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to take a look at a couple of the questions, and we're going to determine if each question contains bias, and then we're going to explain it, and we're going to see if we can correct it. That's the major thing right there, correcting. If you can do that, you're in great shape. Okay. Lead, when ingested, is known to cause brain damage. Do you believe that lead paint should be used in automotive parts? So what we've done here is we've led our question before we've gotten to our question mark with some very particular and pointed information. And because of that, it is bias. All of this is very, very, very kind of shocking and dramatic. And so because of that, the follow-up question is going to lead to a particular type of answer. So if you wanted to remove the bias, you need to remove that initial sentence right there. The best version of that question would be, do you believe that lead paint should be used in automotive parts? That means that there's no prior knowledge or anything that you've kind of inserted, and you're just asking an emotionless and a biasless question, which is going to be the best type. Number 2, don't you agree that sandwiches are the world's greatest food? So once again, I have this little lead-in right here, and this is going to add some emotion to the situation, and that is going to kind of urge somebody to try their best to agree with you. And so that might change their answer, what they might originally have thought. So bias because the question implies that you should agree with the person. That's a bad way to go. Right down here, what I have is my best opportunity to write one that is unbiased. This is, how do you feel about sandwiches? I want you to notice that it's relatively to the point, and there's not a lot of emotion inserted here. It's very also open-ended, so they can choose to agree or choose not to agree. Or probably most people would just, fall somewhere in the middle. Number 3. Do you feel that Twix is better than Reese's and that that increasing gross domestic product is better than decreasing national debt? Now what you've got here is you have a very biased question because basically what you've done is you've confused the person who's supposed to be answering. You've got this question about candy bars, and then you're also following it up with this part about gross domestic product and national debt. These two things are very unrelated. They don't have a lot going, and so by answering one question a certain way, you might be going against your feelings about the other portion of the question as well. So this is a very, very biased question because there's just too much information and that is unrelated. The best way to ask this would be to just ask the first question about Twix or Reese's, or just ask the second part about the gross domestic product and the national debt. One at a time is the best way to go. Last one, number 4. Number 4 right here says, which conic shape is your favorite? So conic shape is some vocabulary, but it is not prefaced with any kind of dramatic information or an urge for you to agree. And that means that this is a very non-biased or unbiased question. It's very clean and straightforward, and it works well. Okay, this has been 11.3, video number 2 of 2. If you have any questions at all, please email me. Now I would like you to move on to the worksheet and the final 11.3 check.